Hey guys, welcome to episode 14 of the Trainer Feed. A little change up from our usual routine with the podcast. So we today it's going to be just myself and Angel. Little last minute scheduling arrangements to change things up, but we're going to go ahead anyway and talk about a few topics such as recovery tools and methods. Training for specificity in your programming, and even recovery standpoints from those who've had injuries, like some either our clients or ourselves. But before we dig deeper into that, Angel, how are you feeling today? How's your week been?
I'm doing okay. Doing all right today. Had a good weekend. It was Father's Day's weekend this past weekend, and got to see my parents. Spent a lot of time with them, and we went on a hike. It was supposed to be like a 7 to 8 mile hike called Stairway to Heaven in Vernon Township, New Jersey. And of those 7 to 8, we did approximately 2,
Oh
and then
shit.
we came back. um, but it was cool. It was cool because we saw, we went from we took the extended route. So they had a route that was like a parking lot, and the parking lot was like 2 miles away from the actual trail, right? So we
Okay.
went to the parking lot, and this is actually a little bit of a story. So I'll tell you a little story, and then we'll get
Go
into
on.
how
All
you're doing.
right.
So we go 2 miles from the parking lot over to the actual trail, and by the time we get to the actual trail, everybody's tired, whatever. It took a lot longer, and it was hot too. So it's been 80 degrees, 90 degrees recently. So it was a little bit hot. We saw cows. So right when we get over to the actual trail, there's like a farm, and we saw cows, and everybody was like, oh, look at this farm. This farm is nice. And they're selling some stuff. So they're selling like ice cream and, danishes and things like that. And so that's when my parents were kind of like, let's eat, because they saw the tables. We ate, we hung out for a little bit. Then after that, it was like, you're done. If you sit down, and I think it's a rule,
You're
like if
not
you
getting
sit
back
down,
up. Yeah.
exactly, you're not getting back up. So after
Your
that,
feet
everybody
feel
was like,
different. You ache a little
yeah.
different.
And then
Yeah.
it's like people are coming down from the hike, and they're just like, good luck, guys, like exhausted, like drenched, right? So that's
You're gonna
also,
need it.
yeah, right, exactly. Oh, you're gonna need it. I was like, oh man, this thing must be tough. And then my parents were kind of like, yeah, no, we're heading back. So we all headed
It's
back.
a wrap.
But when we got back to the parking lot, it's one of those parking lot that's not like an actual lot. It's like you have parking spaces alongside the trail, and it's kind of alongside like the street or the street.
I totally get it. Yeah. I get that.
And then as we're coming back, we see a cop car pulled up, and she's handing out tickets. And so she's giving a ticket to my dad's car. And like she's writing up a ticket, and I see her. I'm like, hey, I'm moving the car. This is my car, blah, blah, blah. My dad's got his own car. I rented a car, for Sandra's family and stuff. So I go over, and she says, I'll get to you in a minute. She goes over to my dad, gives him his ticket, and she comes back to me. She was like, yeah, I was already in the process of writing his ticket, so I had to go give it to him. But, the situation is that this is no parking zone. And there was a sign that I didn't see, but there was a sign that was like 500 feet away from where we parked, where there were more cars there. There were like 10 cars parked in that lot or that line. And then it said no parking past this point. She explained it to us very nicely, very cordially. I ended up telling her, she was like, it's not fair that I give him a ticket, the guy in front of you a ticket, and the guy behind you a ticket, but not you a ticket, because you're kind of sandwiched in between. It was just because of the rental. I had like Texas plates. So I guess she waited for that to like ring up or whatever. And so I told her, I was like, how about this? He's my father. It's about to be Father's Day. I'm going to pay his bill. So like in a sense, you're giving us both. Like, why are you gonna charge a family 2 times? Like, we're all family.
Yeah.
And she cut us a break, so she just let us do that, figure that out. And that was about it. So that's kind of the story of the weekend. But it was a good weekend. It was a good trip. And she said it herself. She was like, it's a really nice hike, and I don't want this to kind of like discourage you from not doing it again.
Coming back. Yeah.
Yeah. So
just know the rule. Oh, just know. Is it easy to find parking around it, or?
yeah, but you got to get there early. You gotta get there early. I feel like if you get there at a certain time, there's just way too many cars, and not everybody fits in that one spot.
Right, and you have to go. But yeah.
Right. But how was your week? How was your weekend?
Week was good. Weekend's good. I mean, starting off, it's good. Trying and reinvigorate some momentum in terms of like motivation, not just of programming, but like or my programming or clients programming, but like something to do. Like find myself a little bit like trapped in the routine of like not doing too much or being okay and comfortable with like watching a lot of TV, or like me and Alex put on a lot of like Friends, and I'm like, wow, I rediscovered like a whole new appreciation for it, because it's like so much funnier now that you're like in your 20s living in New York than when I was like 10 years old living in UK. I had like no appreciation of like or relation to it. I think like I just didn't get it. So that but I'm like I think like I spoke to you outside of this a couple of things that maybe some things are like some tides are changing, and I feel like things are moving in the right direction, and maybe it's like appropriate, you know, and excited for seeing how things are going to turn out. But like with quarantine, like it sounds like the gyms are probably not going to, I thought August 1st, probably not going to open until like maybe September at this point.
So
And go on.
There's a rumor, and I don't want you also finish your thought after I say this, but there's a rumor that the gym might open July 20th. But go ahead.
Well, on the topic of that rumor, my client who lives a block away from West 76th Street Equinox said he saw them yesterday or Wednesday stocking up on tons of cleaning supplies.
Mm-hmm.
So he said he saw that too. But listen, like my thought on that is like, it's good that you got to stock up. You'll have to stock up. That's good.
Yeah.
If Chroma says no, Chroma says no. That's it. Like it's not even, you know, and the other thing as well that like just based on like trends and patterns, like if you look at Texas, Florida, and Arizona where gyms are all open, you're seeing spikes. So I don't know. And Connecticut, it's opened their gym since last week. I'm really like going to be by you, but I'm really paying attention to the people that we follow on Instagram and social media who are at Equinox or other gyms in other states. I'm paying attention to that because I'm trying to see what the environment's like. I'm trying to anticipate how it's going to be when we go back. You know, like truth is like it's going to be hard to train. Like I was outside just now talking to someone like when we go back and when we train, like, but I was talking to her just now and like my mask kept falling off. Like within 10 minutes talking, I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to do a whole hour of this? You know, like when I went to the barbers yesterday, like it kept like, I've got a big schnoz, right? A big nose. So masks are hard to stay on my face when I'm talking, you know, maybe to express it, whatever. But like, I'm like, damn, my big nose, like, cause it's just falling off. And I'm like, shoot, man, like doing a whole day of this, like it's not all our clients I want to go back to in person straight away. So I think the virtual platform allows clients to like, I'll do once a week or I'll do once every 2 weeks and I feel okay, or I'll try it first. So I think that's the beauty of virtual training. If we have clients on that platform, is that like they can do that whilst they start to come back. I think that's a good thing as well. I'm excited for that. Like, we'll see that rumor though, right? The 22nd of July. What are we today? Oh, we're still in June, right? So
yeah, I mean, it's only like a month from now. I mean, we got to see where it goes. Obviously, I think you're right on that front. Like, it depends on what the governor thinks and the governor says.
End of the day, yeah.
So, like, depending on the cases and whatnot. But I do think it is promising to kind of see like them restock with a whole bunch of like gear and stuff like that. Because you remember the last days leading up to this. It was like everybody was
no hand sanitizer, right? They was running out.
It was like everybody, they were screaming at everybody about the hand sanitizer. It's like, I get it. Like there's no hand sanitizer. I don't make the deliveries. I don't refill it.
Yeah. On
like
the floor, right?
On the floor. It's just like you're training your person. But at the same time, like being one step ahead of the game and trying to like stock up now is going to be super beneficial because everybody, just like, you know, when it was right before it closed, everybody was sanitizing at least like 10 times a day. Yeah. So I'm curious how much of a difference it's going to be now. Like people are probably going to do like 10 times a day using the sanitizer.
100%. But then the other thing as well, like we already spoke about this in the first episode, was like, some of these people just never wash their hands, period. It's like, if you don't wash your hands, then you're in fucking trouble because you should be washing your hands.
Yeah.
But then I remember someone like when you said people going crazy on the floor, like, oh, why do you use no hand sanitizer? Like, be more educated to know that like me and you don't make the damn deliveries of you know, like just know that. And also like I had someone come up to me and he was like, oh, this one's empty. Can you bring it from the other side? And I was like, what? No, like, go walk yourself. I'm not doing it. Well, I want slave written all over me, or I'm not a master or anything, you know? And like, it's crazy. So I think like, I also think that Alex showed me a set of memes about like, you know, the glass separations for like barbers or restaurants. The meme for like restaurants was like, I actually kind of prefer this. Like to me, I am weird about awkward spaces. That's how I am. So like, if I'm someone a barber, like you don't want to be like staring at the person, but you almost like want to like. I sometimes like feel weird about that close proximity. So
Yeah.
when I got my haircut yesterday, it was very. I feel for the people walking as barbers and hairdressers because like you got to have like the coat, the mask, the screen. And he was like, "Dude, he's like, we're cleaning so much. There's no
Wow.
assistants. We have to do so much." So like, I feel bad for him, but I
Yeah.
also feel happy that they're able to continue their profession. But he also said, right, that my barber, he goes, but we have to be so careful because if there's any correlation to spike in numbers and it being possibly from like a barber hairdresser, or even the fact that just spike in numbers, period,
Right.
they will probably have to close down again, and they really don't want that, So like they're like, we have to be so careful and really abide. I'm just happy to see they're open again. But like with restaurants, I saw that like a couple on them on Ninth Avenue, and I was actually like, I actually wouldn't mind that. Like I actually like that privacy of like being there. Like we can all count on more than both our hands that we've been in a restaurant or a scenario where the person next to you were just a pair of knobheads, right? They were just like so obnoxious, so loud, or like just taking pictures of the whole thing. I mean, that's just part of dining in New York City, like experience. But let's stay tuned. Let's stay tuned. New York definitely feels busier than it was a few weeks ago and a few months ago. That's just my observation, but
100%.
that could be summer too. That could be summer. But.
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of both. I think that like on a day to day in New York City, like being a New Yorker, like we highly underestimate how many people are in the city.
Right now, yeah.
I think a lot of people leave for the summer and a lot of people left for COVID. But as soon as you started opening up businesses, there were still a ton of people, right? So like there's a lot of people out here. And it is going to be hard for certain business owners in order to like even studios, right? Like studio gyms or studio like smaller businesses, like smaller retail stores. Like it's hard because now you can't have as many people in. But I did see like an infographic that showed like how the mask helped prevent the spread. And it was like if you have coronavirus and you don't have a mask, but somebody else has a mask, the likelihood that you'll transfer it to them is like 70%. Versus if you both have masks, it's like 3% or 1.5%. Which is a huge thing. So so I think that we're doing the smart thing. All business owners, everybody who's working staff has to wear a mask, and they should. And I also think like we have to be mindful of it when we go indoors as well, right? Whether it be in our apartments or be like wherever. And I feel like New York is going to do a good job with it. And I say this because we have to deal with other people's crap so often,
right?
That it's kind of like we're already thinking about like we're not only just thinking about ourselves, we're actually thinking about like everybody, right? Because if one person pulls that emergency brake on the train car, everybody stops. Everybody's delayed, and then everybody else is delayed, right? We've seen those videos, which is kind of funny and not funny at the same time. People trying to commit suicide in the train, like, yo, man, I got to get to work. Get out of the train.
The first comment is, can you not do another track?
Yeah.
Or can you do it after I get to work? Yeah. Like that's the first thing people, in New York.
It's a bit of selfishness, but it's also kind of like we all have to
keep taking over.
Exactly. So I think that New York is going to do a pretty good job. I mean, obviously you'll have like the outliers, but I think we're going to do a pretty good job. I hope so. So we can get back to everything.
So one of the 3 states is in the green, right, for recovering. So it's good to see. And let's see. Let's go. Yeah. So, all right. So recovery. So let's talk a bit about, obviously, we've talked extensively about COVID and how things are closed. And we definitely have some facilities or methods we would like to incorporate in our recovery strategies when everything, is normal. But like, Angel, let's talk about right now, right? You're restricted at home. What does some recovery strategies typically look like for you?
For myself, like, I think the one that's like the easiest for everyone, like the lowest hanging fruit, would be stretching, foam rolling, and making sure that my mobility is A1. For some people, it might be a stability thing, but I think for me, like I have more mobility challenges than stability challenges. So stretching, foam rolling, doing some drills, that really helps me kind of like stay limber and away from injury, as well as like, watching what I eat, hydration wise, and making sure I'm not eating too many like things that are inflammatory, and trying to make sure I get the right amount of sleep, things like that. So I guess the first strategy is just to try to avoid any injury in the first place, but that's what I got going on. How about yourself?
I've been a little guilty of not doing too much. So I think one thing that I have tried to do is, along with having some routine of working out, having a routine of like rest days, right? Like where I need to have a day where I reset everything. And like what's interesting is during this quarantine, my last knee surgery had only been like about a month, like 5 weeks before. So I was still doing rehab at a really sick facility, and like I was really looking forward. I was like, you know what, like I really hope this is my last knee surgery, or at least for a long time. I'm gonna do the rehab like so serious. Like I think also like when you get injured, the more you get injured, the more the less room of error for error you have.
Yeah.
So I always think of it as a meter up to 100%. Every time you get an injury, like take off 5%, take off 10%. So like I have like instead of 100% to work with for its optimal health, I have about like 85%. So I think of it like that.
Yeah.
So, but going besides that, like obviously with the virus, like I couldn't go to PT anymore. They were only accepting patients who had just come out like a week or two after surgery, and mine was so minor anyway. So I've done mobility. Like I think something that I realized in my program that I was missing was a day of a lot of unloaded movements. So I had, we did Michel Darcourt's course like a year ago. He put us in the 4 quadrants, right? He talked to us about loaded linear movements, loaded multiplanar loaded, multiplanar unloaded, and then loaded linear. Unloaded linear was the last one, sorry.
Right. Yep.
And that was really like a take-home message for me, like where I realized, wow, I really do so little unloaded movement, or it's always like movement prep, and that's something I think like my Thursday, for example, has been that day where I try and do certain days, certain patterns, and then build up towards it.
Yeah.
Thursday's like a very low intensity, like kind of animal flow bodyweight movement day, and Friday's my day off, and then restart on Saturday. So that's typically how I've made my recovery, and those 2 days are very limited on Thursday. Icing when I feel something's kind of achy, and learning to listen to the body, where like if something's hurting, you almost have to be smarter right now, right? Because if you've got, you have 2 things, combined maybe, but like, one, the fear of going to the doctors for the spread of the virus is one thing, right? So you don't want to go in unless it's absolutely necessary. That's definitely sometimes the mindset.
Right.
The other thing as well is, well, especially with the virus now, like how hard is it for me to get an appointment at my physician or a doctor? Like, so I can't, you really shouldn't ever be like fucking around with injuries, but like you really have to be close. And that was my thought in Jersey was, wow, like I have to be so smart here. I really can't overdo it, because if I fuck up my knee right now, I can't go in and get like a scan, or at least not with my doctor. It's not going to happen, So I think that, like you mentioned, the anti-inflammatory foods, I definitely felt in the first few weeks it was hard, man. Like I was like, it's kind of like, it almost felt like when you broke up for summer from school, having just finished your exams, and you got that first week where like you don't give a fuck what you're doing. There's just no routine, and you're like, go to bed when I want, wake up when I want. You kind of get that again. And then like most summers after school, okay, after like 2 weeks, I need to have some kind of routine, whether I'm working out, going places, traveling. You reintroduce some kind of routine. It was the same thing here, like try not to have too heavy anti-inflammatory foods. And but I think foam rolling as well was something that I've kind of like need to do more of. But I saw some comments, some posts where if I don't ever do mobility now, quarantine, I'll never do it. Or like it's a funny thing, right? Like we said, we have so much time now. So if we don't do some of these things, like what do we have to do to make sure we ever do them?
Well, you bring up a good point, because like I think I started to feel the same way in the beginning when it first started. Like I remember I wasn't stretching much, I wasn't like moving much, and I was just kind of like treating it kind of how you spoke about it, like you just got out of school or for summer break. But I would say this, like also remember our clients are doing the same thing, and they're also feeling the same way. And I say that because when we're in the gym, we kind of had that set routine of, you see your client, they might be warming up, rolling out, whatever, right? Now you're doing virtual. So you see your client, they're ready to go. They're just like, all right, let's do this.
Assuming they're ready to go, right?
Exactly. So, and I will say this, like when you're in the gym, you can see where they're stretching, where they're warming up, when to call their card and when not to. And the clients that kind of skip out on that stuff and the clients that are just like, no, I'm going to spend an hour stretching or whatever. Right. So my client, one of my clients, he had told me like he was feeling a bit stiff, this, that, and the third. And we kind of like spoke about it. I said, let's break out the foam roller. And he said he hadn't touched it in like weeks. And I was like, you know what? That brings up a good point. And we kind of spoke about how like in the beginning of the sessions, we should treat it like we just saw each other in the gym floor. So like he'll bring out the roller and spend like the first 5 minutes rolling out. And we catch up, like talk about how the week was or whatever, like how the past couple of days were. And then we get into our workout routine. And what I started to adopt is like doing the same thing for myself. So like when I see him, he's rolling, then I start rolling out too. Because like how many times do you do that in the gym too, right? Like your client is stretching and sometimes you'll talk to them, but you'll be stretching or rolling out next to them or something like that, right? So like that's a good opportunity to kind of like pepper it in throughout the day. So that way you can kind of like get those mobility needs. If taking a chunk of time in and of itself is just too difficult or you haven't done it yet, which might mean that it's too difficult, then think about like sprinkle it into your day just like that.
I hadn't thought of that. That's actually a really good point. I think I kind of took something similar with actually one of my favorite clients. She's awesome. She often has like aches and pains. And so I'm like, okay, we're not touching load. I probably mentioned before. We're gonna manage our own body weight and like, especially with when I train her on Fridays being one of the off days for me as well. That's where like if we'll do animal flow body weight stuff, I do some of it with her as well. I'm like, and she's very visual. She really needs to see the person do the movement sometimes. And
right.
And that's just how she learns. So I'm like, all right, let's do it this way. And look, we might have done the movement before, but like, and like you said, if there's an opportunity for me to do it, sometimes I'm like, you know what, actually, I will look forward to doing that. Especially the fact that I will demonstrate more than usual and I'll do these patterns, and sometimes I'm jokingly, I'll do it. I'm like, oh God, fuck, I'm tight, or like, oh shit, I definitely need this today, So like, I think we both laugh about it. And it also helps when, like, for example, this client had like an achy back today and I just told her, like, you know what, like my back was killing me yesterday as well. So you're going to do exactly, and this is kind of how we should program and train anyway, right? Like when we felt the discomforts and pains, we kind of know like, all right, do this, do that. This feels better. And I was like, all right, well, my back sucked yesterday and this is why I did. And it helped me feel better. And you have another level of, you can relate. It's another level that you can relate on when you're like, oh, I had this just yesterday, and like, this is gonna help me feel better, and like it helps them reinforce. It helps you know that you're reinforcing, like you practice what you preach, right? Because you're like, oh, this is what I've had, and this is how I do it. This is and it's good to have that, right? Like, I think it's I definitely admit that when it's like, if you've done something heavy, you're probably not going to do the heavy thing as well. Like I don't know how, I know I spoke with Georgine, who we've had before on the podcast, and she was talking to us about some of the training she was doing. And she was saying how like the people she train with virtually, they're like, no, they want to see someone move on the camera. And I'm like, oh, that's brutal. Like if you have to do that for every time you do it.
Yeah, that's wild.
If it's 1 or 2, you can do it. But if it's like 5 or 6 in a day, that takes its toll,
and I guess it depends on the client's needs. I actually thought about that because I started doing some group fitness classes online, and I was noticing like I was getting a little bit tight and like I needed to stretch. So in the end of the sessions, I would stretch. And then I started thinking, well, why am I tight? I was like, well, because I'm sitting down all the time, and I'm sitting down while I'm teaching the class. Like I demonstrate the movement patterns at first. I do it one time, and then like if they need it again, like they're just like, I don't remember, then I do it again. But it just goes to show like how like I never even thought about like trying to work out with my client, like because I'm not used to doing that already. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So, you don't have that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then also I never taught group fitness. I did like once or twice, but nothing like, it's not like an official thing.
It's almost like another kind of game, right? Yeah. It's not, it's very different.
Yeah. It's very different. How you demonstrate things is very important. How effortless you make it seem, and then also how you can speak while you're doing it, right? So you got to be able to like speak concisely while you're doing like burpees, which is like, you gotta be mindful. Yeah, you gotta be mindful of your fluctuations in your tone, like how out of breath you are. You gotta be in shape in order to like speak and do effortful exercise.
Yeah, I've noticed when I was Alex's parents and I was doing the Peloton classes and you're out of breath. I'm like, damn, this person is like supposedly doing the same cadence and RPMs as you and resistance, but they're like, okay, keep going. You're like, how are you talking? Like, there was a really inspirational girl, a lady on there, Tunde, I can't remember what her last name was, and it was like a week after like George Floyd murder, and she was like, whoa, how was like powerful, but she was talking the whole 30 minutes, dude. She was like going, and it was very powerful. She's like, get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because you can breathe, and he wasn't able to, and it was very powerful, very moving. But for 30 minutes, she was reinforcing, like, you're gonna be uncomfortable, you gotta think about this.
That's insane.
It was very impressive, to say the least. And I was like, wow, like you left that feeling like, even if you can or can't relate, or you would try just sympathize and imagine what it feels like to be someone of color, like you came out of that very touched. But her and even like some of the other trainers, like again, we will talk about specificity in training, but sometimes when we are our own designers and trainers, like I'm guilty of like wanting someone to go, all right, do this. Yeah. Because two things. One, it's the creativity of a program like that. Two, it's the accountability. Like you're not gonna make yourself do the 2 or 3 things you really hate, or at least you'll slug it out, Whereas like, all right, you're gonna do this, and you're gonna have no rest. You're like, it'd be hard for you to do that yourself, I feel like. Yeah. So that being said, when I've done some of the classes, dude, doing burpees or whatever, and they're still talking. I'm like, how? Yeah, bro, how? Like, and it's like, I don't know. It's very impressive. So
yeah, it's kind of like, I guess they got to train for it like singers do as well, right? Like you got to be able to, or performers, right? So you got to be able to like sing and perform at the same time.
It is almost like a performance thing, because like knowing when to look, how to, I think there's a bit of that too. Yeah,
there's a lot of that. And then I actually have a sidebar to that. I just hope I don't forget. Remind me, motorcycle.
I got one too, but go on.
All right, remind me motorcycle helmet if I forget. But Taylor was telling me, so Taylor is a group fitness and manager. And she used to work with us in personal training. So she went from personal trainer to group fitness instructor, and personal trainer to group fitness instructor and manager. Yeah, right? Because she'll like sub or whatever she needs to do, but she's a manager first, and then like she subs or does whatever classes if she needs classes. Anyway, all that's to say that when we were speaking, she was saying like how some of the group fitness instructors would actually have like sore throats or like lose their voice frequently because of the amount of classes that they do. Right. So it really does depend. Like, even if you're doing, I think like yoga, where you might not be screaming or yelling or shouting,
you just have a sexy voice. Now breathe.
Yeah. Right.
Exhale, release the tension.
Yep. And you'll be on the next Netflix documentary.
And then of all that, it's all gone.
Yeah. So like, it's a lot of talking, and it's a lot of talking like consistently without any like feedback, because people aren't talking back to you. You're just like, to yourself, you do this and thinking about this and lengthen this and then move this. It's a lot. So you really do have to train for that. It really is like almost like a performance.
Yeah, I think like you said, you don't realize you're the only one hearing yourself. You're hearing yourself, your own voice talk the whole time. And what's funny when you talk about that is, do you remember at the club at 76th Street when, like, let's say one of the group fitness instructors was running late because of the subway or something? Oh yeah. And they come in and like, hey, the instructor is like 5-10 minutes late. We just need someone to go in and warm them up, because they're gonna be really pissed if they're late. And then I think it was Jason, not manager, the other one, the AGM that came in, is like, dude, like, we'll help you with a gift card or this stuff. And I was like, fuck it. Like, I literally have an hour to kill. Yeah. This could only help me. So I thought. And like, the problem is, it was a 6 p.m. class, and half the people came in after I'd said, hey, I'm a trainer here. I'm just filling you in to warm you up for 5 minutes just to kind of get you loose and feel you're not waiting around. And I was like, there's absolutely nothing wrong that can come of this. Yeah. Yeah. So like you said, it's a different skill, right? When you work one-on-one with your client, you know how either limited or what their patterns are like, what injuries they have, what they can or can't do, what their kind of work is, so what kind of stress is placed in their body, all that good stuff, all the variabilities, right? You go in a class, not only of people you don't know, but of many people, right? So you go in, there must have been like about 20 people. And I'll never forget this one girl, she came in right after I said like the whole spiel, like, hey, I'm just a trainer here. I'm going to hope to give you like a little warm up. And again, I don't know anyone's abilities. There's probably like at least 10 different abilities in the class. Like, how would you give a warm up for 10 different kinds of abilities? There are ways of doing it. And obviously there's no wrong, or there's no right or wrong about modification, regression. There's no,
right.
You're moving, right?
Right.
So I'll never forget like starting, and I was like, all right, like, I was like, oh, 5 minutes, no problem. I'll do the world's greatest stretch. I do this. And group fitness usually are like extremely intense fit people, right? Like, in the best way, I mean that, right? They're they're hardcore. Yeah. So you give them something and you're like, shit, like they crushed that. You're like, all right, fuck. So I had to give them like a couple other stuff. And I was like, all right, I know, like, again, you're like in the spotlight. I didn't have a mic on me, thank God. But anyway, I think we were doing a get up from a very simple position, right? Big fucking mistake. Don't ever do it, right?
Yeah.
For me, it was like from the get
up. Too many planes,
exactly. But it was something like from the ground just to do the reach up. That was what it was, the one part.
Yeah.
And someone who came in late, this blonde girl, she's like, well, I can't do that. My wrist hurts. I fuse my wrist. And I was like, well, what can you do? But then you're drawing attention to one person.
Yeah.
Half the class are fine. Half of them are killing it. Then you have like 1, 2, 3 people that like, she doesn't know, she thinks I'm a sub. And she's like, why the fuck did I show up when it's a sub? Because some of my clients told me, they'll tell you the same. Your clients are like, if it's a sub, I'm not going. Because I go for her, I go for him. They go for that specific instructor. And I totally get that. So if you go to a class and someone else is there and you have not been told, then you're like, who the fuck is this trainer? Who the fuck is this guy? And he's doesn't even know that I have injury, all this stuff. So like I felt a little bit like I got crucified in 5 minutes. Oh, that's the other thing. They said 5 minutes. They went up to 10.
Yep.
So you plan for 5 minutes. They go to 10
They went to go get coffee.
I don't know.
So now we got you.
Like, oh, now they got a trainer on that. Yeah, I'm gonna take my time. I'm change my shoes and at the end, like some of them were like, "Thank you, Jack. We really appreciate it." Someone like understood that like I didn't know I wasn't that comfortable.
As I saw you waiting for your client or with your client rolling out, like after that, they're just like,
"Oh yeah, they're like this fucking guys."
But wait a minute, was there any music just so we can give the audience a somewhat of a set?
I'm actually not sure
probably
because
dead quiet.
Yeah, I think that might have been it because the instructor usually comes in that music, right? And I don't know if I had my iPhone on me and plugged in. I don't think I did, truth be told. Yeah. But look, I think but that also goes back down to the educational mindset where this person's not responsible for the other person being late. That you have that's where sometimes it's a bit frustrating in many industries when you see that and someone's like when the whole thing with Steve Ross and the Trump fundraiser last summer happened. I know we heard from, I think, Kyle or someone else telling us where like people were going to front desk and screaming at front desk associates. And it's like, you have to be smarter than that, man. Like you have to know that this 19, this 20-year-old, whoever it is, like front desk associate has not had any say where any of the company's finances go or investments go. They have no say in that. Like to think that you'll get like, I think that's a very uneducated and stupid response or reaction to have. Same thing where someone's like coming to a group fitness class to help you warm up. I don't have to fucking do this. I'm doing this because I think it can benefit. I did think I get leads. I got null. They probably thought this jackass. Yeah. But it's whatever. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Like sometimes it's good to be, like we said in that class I did, like sometimes it's good to be uncomfortable. But I think only good things happen when you put yourself out of the comfort zone, right? Like we can talk about like so many different podcasts and authors or motivational speakers that will testify to that. Like that's just, fuck it, you have to do that. You're not gonna. But that being said, it's a different game, And I have to admit, have you ever tried things like fitting room?
I have not. Although I'm trying to think. Like I know I did like a couple of things like a while ago. Mm-hmm. I feel like if it's a bad experience, it's harder for me. I don't know if I'm just getting, I mean, I'm not old, but like you get older and then you start like forget that you do things and people show you a picture. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that. Like, group fitness classes is one of them. Like I've been to a couple, but I haven't like remembered it because it's probably bad.
Here's my thought on it as well, right? Like additional from what we've just spoken about was I went to a couple and I went to some, fitting room, Upper West Side. And then this guy as well, Dory Ross, he also had my doctor for his surgery. And I saw this guy and dude is the nicest guy, right? But he's pretty awesome. And His classes are good. He's got good energy about it. And that's the other thing as well, is the energy.
Yeah.
You can't be like,
that.
hi, I want you to do this and that. Like, if you don't get the the mood of the room of the group, that people come because they vibe with you. Your
and
class.
you need that. You need that 110%.
Yeah,
and I will say this, like,
absolutely.
just because I didn't like the experience that I had doesn't mean that there aren't some great classes.
Exactly.
Like, typically the great classes are primetime hours or primetime slots.
Yeah.
And that's when we'd have like sessions, and I'd be like, I really want to go check this out, or I really want to go check that out, but you can't because you got sessions backed up, right? So you're gonna put your business before like whatever you want. So that's the only thing that I would say to that. Like,
I agree.
That energy is.
I totally agree.
Yeah,
it's so important. And I think on a note where I had gone to a couple of these classes at Fitting Room, and when I did the workout, I loved it. I was like, damn, like I would never pair like swings with like this kind of lunge or this kind of row, or like and the other thing as well, like sometimes the limit of working out some of the equals locations is that some of the cardio equipment is at opposite sides of the room or on opposite or in different floors, right?
Right.
And you go to a facility where like, no, you're all going to jump on the ski erg, then you're all going to jump on the row, then all the air dime, like one after the other. Yeah. Like how you, like at 76th Street, the air dime's there, the row is there, the ski erg's back. It's, and then also because there's only 1 or 2 of them, like without hogging like some people, you don't want to be a dick, but it's hard. But it's hard for you to follow a program that says, all right, you're gonna do these 3 cardio exercises.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas when you're in that group class setting, there's 6 or 10 of them, and you're doing rotation, and you get that. So I do love that.
That's the thing. You control the room.
Boom. And the other thing I'll say though, this is kind of like on the fence, is that the workouts and the kettlebell swings or whatever the kettlebell exercise we do, love it. Here's the thing though. If you have a pattern like a kettlebell swing and you want someone who's never done it to now do it in a high impact environment, high intensity of liminal rest, that's dangerous to me. I think honestly 5 times out of 10 you're going to create injury in that scenario. That's my like I'm like, I don't care, I'm fine. I love doing me and yourself and David and most of our clients have done swings or acclimatized. So if we went to that class, I would feel comfortable. But if someone is new to fitness, and I get it, it's the New York mindset, like we said, with like on the subway, like it's how can I get 3-4 things in 1 hour for my money? It's how can I get kettlebells, cardio, and core and a sweat in 45-50 minute class and things like that. That's what it is. And I totally get it and it makes sense. But from the injury standpoint, that's just what kind of concerns me a little bit. It's all right, you're going to do a swing, but now you're going to do rows right after, then you're going to do pull-ups, and then you're going to do plank. Like,
it's hard.
And then with minimal rest, your form's going to look like trash for most people.
Yeah, you got to think about the class, like the population, who's coming to the class,
right?
What are their needs? It helps if it's consistent, but sometimes you get it where it's very inconsistent. I'm assuming like the more tenured you are as a group fitness instructor, instructor, like the more adherence you're going to get to people like coming to your classes, and you'll see the same consistent people.
Right.
But it's very difficult to kind of like, if that's not there, it's difficult to kind of like gauge the class, and then also like try to figure out like how to progress one thing to the other when, everybody keeps switching up. And I will say this as well, because I started teaching it online and virtual. There's a lot of movement patterns that you can blend in together that I typically would have never blended together. And now I'm using that for one-on-one coaching. So I think it's important that we kind of get our feet wet as like trainers to do group fitness instructing, and then like vice versa, because it is very important to kind of be able to progress and regress movement patterns on the fly sometimes, whether it's like for a group fitness class or for a one-on-one training session, and making the person feel like included, right? When we're doing our one-on-one sessions, it's very easy for us to kind of like, I don't want to say like change the tone of the kind of like session. Right. So if your client is raring to go, boom, 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 you're hitting stuff. And then all of a sudden they say, oh, I'm feeling this in my back, or I'm feeling this in my wrist. You can kind of change that tone in order to meet the client where they are, and kind of like make sure that they feel okay. Right. You can say, all right, let's do that at the third. Once you're in a group fitness environment, it's a little bit different, because you got to keep that same energy for part of the class, like 95%, and then still cater to that 5% at the same time, which is not necessarily the easiest thing. But I will say, like I've learned a lot from kind of like doing that. Like a very important thing just so people know off the bat, like, I don't know if this is in some rule book or manual or whatever, but in teaching some of the group fitness classes, if somebody comes up to you and they say that they have an injury or something like that, you might want to just say, okay, that's fine. Depending on where it is in the class, like getting to know them a little bit, like what's your name, blah, 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 right? Just in case you have to address them, cut the mic off. You can speak to that person directly by name and then like say, hey, are you feeling okay? Is this working for you? Blah, blah, blah. They say, okay. And then boom, you switch the mic on and then you go back to the crowd and go back to the group. But I think it's very important to kind of like have that distinction, because I felt like when I did a couple of those classes, there were a lot of people who had some issues or some challenges along the way. And then I didn't necessarily get the one-on-one interaction. Like I didn't nail it. And then like after the class was over, it was kind of like everybody split and then it's just like ghost town. Versus when I saw that 5% and I kind of met them where they were during the group fitness class, knowing them by name, making fun of myself, like if they're having an issue with something, or, building that bridge, bridging that gap. Then after the class is over, you get that client or that member coming up to you and saying, hey, I really like this. And also the other 95% were more likely to talk to you because they saw how you handled that situation. Yeah. And it's very important. And people like that. I think people like to feel like maybe I was in the 95% today, but maybe tomorrow I'll be in the 5%. But whether or not, whichever group I'm in, I know that he's got me, So I was just going to say, like, that's very kind of like something to put in your back pocket.
I actually want to piggyback off that because I think that often I don't know if the mindset is the shame or embarrassment of telling the instructor like I have an injury, and like you said, often people will just not say something because they don't want to feel that they're incapable of doing it or that they're weak, or that's and that's sometimes the issue when I've gone to, CrossFit's in the news for a whole other ton of reasons right now, but when I would go to CrossFit, before I went, there was a ton of bad press about it, how a lot of people were getting injured from doing it. And when I started going to it, I said, I kind of see why people like bitch about it, but I actually understand the fact that it's a really great sport. It's a really good kind of workout where, it's really up to the client or the member to say, look, I have knee issues and I can't deadlift this certain way, or I can't squat below parallel. Like if the client or the member doesn't say that, the coach, that's information the coach doesn't have available to him. Now, can the coach be, all right, I'm confident, like whenever we've gone to a class, here's the other thing though, right? Like if you go to a class and the instructor goes, does anyone in here have any injuries? And you're like all the way in the back and you're like, I broke my toe. Like it's maybe not done the best way. Like maybe if this is not saying all classes like this, but like I'm saying that if there's a scenario where when you come in the class and they're kind of like, oh, like, hey, how's it going? Like, you don't have, assuming you don't know the people, like, you don't have any, do you have any injuries? Or let us know if you have any injuries. I felt like when I've been at fitting room, when they let people in the room and you have like a number and a spot for most of it, they go, hey guys, we're going to start in 5 minutes. Please come up to us if you have any injuries. So it eliminates being like, hey, you at the back, you fucked up your knee. Like that's not personable. And I know you're in a group fitness class, but like that doesn't encourage the person to want to admit or like indicate they have the injury, right? So I think I have seen it in fitting room where, hey, come talk to us. And I did that myself. And I said, look, I've got problems with my knees. I had surgery twice, whatever it is, or 3 times now. Like I said, just certain things I can't do. Fucking a long list. Just some things I can't do. And I'm good for hinging. Or I'm like, and in that class as well, they have written the program for the workout. And you're able to then look and be like, lunges is going to be an issue, or like box jumps. Like whenever I see box jumps, my eyes blow up because I'm like, I've got to find a replacement for that. And like, truth be told, and this is the other thing as well, is sometimes I think the mindset behind group fitness is if you can't do the workout they prescribed, if you're not doing all of it, you're not going to get the same results. That's total bullshit. Like it's all about like modifying to what you need. Like, and I think like you mentioned group fitness or different kinds of working out, like you take the 3 or 4 different kind of patterns we do in a gym setting, and there's nothing wrong with doing 4 sets of 10 with a minute breathing, a minute rest, between each set. But if you change your rest period, if you change your number of sets, reps, and you do the same 3 patterns, you can get a whole different kind of response on the body, right? And it's just a matter of knowing what is good for you. Like for me, running has been out of the picture since 2015, 16. I've done it a few times. But the doctors say, like, just if there's one thing you shouldn't do is running, and like, and maybe it's a mental thing when I do it now. but I have to find other ways of doing it.
Yeah.
And that's not a wrong way. It sucks. What the fuck am I gonna do? I'm not gonna fucking cry about it. Like,
Yeah.
find the next best way. Find the next safest way to train, and you know what? Suck it up. Like, if you can't do that, okay, that's fine. Whatever. Just this definitely. But I think that's when it comes down to you telling the group fitness instructor, telling your one-on-one trainer, like, okay, I can't do this. All right, no worries. You know, like when people have problems with their wrists or few wrists, they can't do push-ups. Yeah. All right, you're gonna do some kind of whatever the hell it is. You know, like it is. I do think like us being very big on kettlebells, having wrist issues can be one of the more challenging ones. I feel like because there's so much pressure on the wrist when you use a kettlebell. But it doesn't stop you from doing swings. It doesn't stop you from doing cleans usually, snatches, that kind of stuff. So I'm confident when they tell you, but I am always on the opinion that like, please tell me anything and everything. Like when they tell you, a client's like, I broke my toe 20 years ago. Please tell us, you know, because if you've had the injury, the likelihood is your pattern in lunging or deadlifting, whatever it is, looks a little different than it did before the injury. I can pretty much guarantee it looks a little different, right? Yeah. That or it's been so long ago that your pattern now feels normal, but it is a little altered from what it was like when you didn't have any injuries, right?
Correct.
So,
let's talk a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about injuries. What I want you to do is I want you to look up ice barrel right now. If you got a computer.
Ice what barrel?
Ice barrel. Yeah. So I saw this thing on Instagram the other day, and you scroll through Instagram. Sometimes you see these ads, and you're just like, how the hell did I get here?
This? Yeah.
This one kind of like makes sense. It's a barrel, like it's literally just a barrel that you fill with ice and water, and then you take like an ice bath in the barrel. And part of me was just like, wait, is that it? Let's see it. Yep, that's it. And you can choose like different types of barrels, like an original, whatever.
Oh my God, you can have like a one.
Yeah, exactly. Part of me thinks like, this is a silly idea. Like, why don't you just take a bath? And the other part of me thinks like, you know what? Like, you could probably make a ton of money off of just like putting a barrel, like selling a barrel and then claiming it's like an ice barrel. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you reach those points where you're just like, this is so silly that it might work. Like, this is one of those things that they definitely did it. And I think they use like premium quality, like wood or what have you, because it's like UV blocking, UV protection.
So it claims.
Right.
But have you got that much science going into something that's like $150?
Right. Exactly. So I just wanted you to take a look at it. And any of you, if any of you guys listening have seen that, what are your thoughts on that?
I've also been reading there are mixed studies on icing as well. I know I mentioned I ice for my knee because of the inflammation around the joint, but I've heard like on ice baths, I've read a couple of mixed different studies. Some saying like, some of those I felt the benefit, the physiological benefit. Some have not felt from doing it.
Right.
But
I think it depends on the situation. I was reading up a little bit about it, and they do say like icing is probably one of the best things to do if you have inflammation, right? Because it's going to reduce the inflammation. I think icing and compression work really well together. And in terms of like, making sure that you're compressing in order to constrict the blood vessels to try to reduce the amount of blood that's actively going into the inflamed area, causing it to swell even more. So just recently when I did the 30 miles, my knee was swelling up. I think I was telling you guys. So the day of, it was fine. The day after, I noticed like some tweaks, like some range of motion issues. And later on in the day, my knee just got so swollen. It was crazy. And I had like little flexion, probably like 15, 20 degrees of flexion.
Like stiff and blown up.
Yeah. Right? And I could like pull, but it was like it was not good to pull. So I was like, I don't know what to do.
Too inflamed to like move a joint, right?
Yeah. And then Sandra comes home and she sees my knee and she's like, well, did you compress it? And I'm like, nah. And she was like, you got to compress it. And she was like, and put ice on it and elevate it. Because I was just doing my regular sessions. I think it was a day after. Well, yeah.
You did it on a Saturday, no?
Did I do it on a Saturday or Sunday?
I feel like you did it the Saturday before your birthday, I feel like.
All right. Either way, like it was the day I was working. She came home and she was just like, what the hell are you doing? And so I did that the next day. Like I iced it overnight or whatnot. And then the next day I compressed it. And then, you know, it was like the range of motion was night and day. I was like able to do like 90 degrees of flexion at the knee again, you know, all that stuff without any pain. And I was just like, why didn't I do that sooner? So rule of thumb there, rice. Yes, rice. So if you guys don't have already, like you should definitely, you know, knock on wood, you don't get injured. Right. Knock on wood, you don't get injured. But if you're going to put together like a kit, injury recovery sort of kit, definitely have some sort of like ice pack or something like that, some gel, something like that. And then ace bandages or whatever compression bandage that you may have. Make sure it's a bandage because like you're not sure, like I know you got knee sleeves and like shin guards and things like that, but it might not be that area. And what happens if it's an ankle or something like that? And it's so important to do that when that happens, because if you wait, then the likelihood that it's going to recover quickly is lessened, right? So you got to get on it when it happens. And even if you don't feel it that day,
get on it.
Get on it. Yeah, because it's definitely gonna not heal up on its own.
If you can be preventative about it, and if you know, hey, I did a long run or I did some squats, some heavier squats, like that's, I think it gonna lead me on to our next topic of like with injuries and like how long you wait until you get diagnosed, or you know, just have someone look at it. And that's my thing as well, is like as soon as it feels funky, I'm icing the hell out of it, you know. And like what scares me and worries the most is when I'm icing the hell out of it and nothing's happening. I'm like, oh fuck, like this is something more serious. And that's why when our clients or anyone asks like what should I do, I'm like, have you iced it? No. Like, not to belittle you either, Angel, but like that's always the first thing I say. Like, you gotta ice it. You gotta ice it. Like compress it. I just think honestly, like the elevation, and then also in terms of nutrition, like, are you having foods that are inflammatory, that are, you know, have more a lot of inflammatory properties, you know, or anti-inflammatory properties that on the other hand can help. So like ginger. Right. You know, turmeric, you know, you can get them in supplements now, you have them with your coffee or whatever it is you want to have them with. So doing that, but that's also preventative on my end as well. Like when I have a smoothie, I put ginger in it, right? Because I'm like, all right, like I'm pretty sure like I'm going to be aching tomorrow. Again, have I done the studies myself in a lab and be like, oh, before or with and without ginger? No. But like based on what a lot of studies I've read, that it's more likely to help than it is to not.
I was just going to say like a silly sidebar.
Go on.
I saw one of these ads again on Instagram. Yo, Instagram is getting me lately. It was about like some coffee alternative. And they're like, if you want to get off of coffee, try this alternative. And it's like cacao powder, turmeric, ginger, chia seeds, some like crazy like mixture and concoction, lion's mane. And I was like, dude, the coffee is going to cost me like, what, 10 cents 20. If I make it at home.
Right? If you get this,
But if you get all these ingredients, you know, lion's mane is supposedly like pretty expensive.
So I did it for my internship. I did a bit of research on it, and it's quite impressive what like the studies show about lion's mane, how it's meant to like, it's not right, because all mental health disorders and issues they're not really reversible and there's no cure. Right. So things like these nootropics that you mentioned, lion's mane, it's meant to help you with cognitive abilities, right? Like these studies show that those who took it versus those who didn't show more promising cognitive effects of like whether it was like reaction timing, whether it was like whatever it was. There's so many studies that prove that. Like I myself haven't gone into the market and looked at how expensive they were, but based on the science I've read, it's hard. Again, there's nothing right now that can reverse this, like in terms of mental health issues. So like if you're able, again, it's like it's almost like, I wouldn't say it's a direct analogy, but like if you have pain or if you have arthritis, right? Like if you know things that you can do to help strengthen your muscles and joints around where the sites of arthritis are, or if you know that you have a history of arthritis in your family genetically, you know, like what things can you do to put that at bay further along in your life, right? And that's why, like, I won't say who, but recently someone was saying to me, like, oh, you work out too much. How long can you keep this up? And there was someone in their 40s who doesn't really work out, right? So it's not a real fucking surprise. But it was kind of like, well, no, I like, we mentioned Mike Boyle in the past where he's one of the few guys who's still in this profession in his 60s. And like, who's to say that he can't do it to his 80? Because
Right.
if you're a smart, in my opinion, if you're a smart enough trainer, you can dictate it all verbally.
Right.
You don't need to be like, okay, so my client's like a beast and he's going to squat 600 pounds. Oh, so I've got to show him how to squat 600 pounds before he does. No, like that's kind of disproving what people say about you need to be in shape, but not necessarily in shape, be able to do the same movements or loads or qualities, like 100%. We've all had people that like, dude, I had this one client 3 or 4 years ago. I'm not ripped, right? And this guy was like fucking shredded. Dude had 4% body fat. 4%, right? Don't think I've ever even come close to 4. They would come to maybe like 8, right? That was on a really good week. He was probably on a bad week, right? And in my head, I'm like, he doesn't need a fucking trainer. He's like 4%, but he had like shit for leg. He couldn't do lower body pants, right? So like that's where you find your value. Yeah, it was crazy, man. I was like, this guy's ripped and he got no legs.
Team no legs.
No,
Shout
but he
out
was
to Team No Legs.
Team No Legs. Good squats in. Nah, super nice guy, and that was where I found a lot more value of my training with him. But where the fuck was I going with this?
It's all good. You were talking about like trainers you don't have to like lift apart to actually.
Right. You don't. So all right. Yeah.
I want to be the OG though. I want to be the OG. I want to be like, 80 years old. You can come in wherever the hell you want. You want to wear leather jacket and jeans. I'm wear the leather jacket and jeans.
100%. I agree with you. And it's a fine line between being out of shape or whatever it is. It's a fine line between that as well, right?
Yeah.
Because I know if honestly, when I first came to West 76th Street, there were 3 guys I would ever train with. And it was probably Kelly, Mike, and then either Brian or Antoine. Those are the 4 guys. When I got there, I was like, I'd only train with one of those guys. Yeah. Because they were bigger. They're all still bigger than me. To me, that's like, I would buy into what they're doing. Because
Antoine's legs are silly. Antoine's legs are the selling point. He don't need to talk. He just wears those shorts. You see, I didn't even see like that what is it? Vastus lateralis is insane. Yeah. I don't know what. And he's like, I just ride the bike.
He's like a 4D version of a.
Yeah, I'm like, right. He's like, I just ride the bike.
Yeah.
I was like, how? How do you ride the bike to get that? Like, what are you using? Like the side of your feet? Like, I don't even understand how he did that. But I don't
know, man. City Bike hasn't done it for me yet. I'll tell you that. City Bike, where's my vastus lateralis? I'm still waiting. What is it going to come in the mail or what? So,
for real.
But no, yeah. But that again, that was kind of where I was going with that. Was that this client was in sick shape, and like you don't have to. And we've all had clients that were more mobile than us. Like that can be, that was a little humbling in my first couple of years of training, where like I had clients with much fucking better mobility than me.
Yeah.
Got much better squat. You got it, and you're like, fuck, like I don't know if I should show you because my deadlift's gonna look like trash or my squat's gonna look like trash. True. But being open and able to be accountable of knowing that like, hey, like my squat isn't great, but I'm so happy and confident of yours. Like yours is awesome, Like, and it is good to have that. Right. But that doesn't mean you can't train or you can't like coach someone, right? It's a whole, and that's what you said, right? If you said to us a year or 2 ago, like, oh, group fitness is easy, you just go up there and do a basic. Like now you realize after doing it, it's not like it. And not that I ever said group fitness was easy, but if you were to make that comment, and then once you experience it a little bit, like, no, it's another kind of skill. And I think the group fitness instructors doing 101 would have possibly some challenges of their own as well, just because it's a different skill. True. No right or wrong in it, but just it's different.
I think you have to also, like, as a group fitness instructor, I mean, and then we'll get back into recovery stuff. But
sorry guys.
The group fitness instructor, you need to be like confident in yourself. And of course they can correct me if I'm wrong. And hopefully someday on the podcast, we'll get Taylor on so she can kind of like speak from her experiences personally. But I think you need to be confident in yourself because you're going to be able to walk into a room and control that room, whether it's like being the hype man or whether it's kind of like being like, this is what you got to do, the military person, or, whatever you got to, whatever version of that, like you have to be very confident in yourself. I think that a lot of people can fit the part and look the part, but I don't know that many people who can actually like be the part. Not to sound too corny, but that's how.
Did I tell you we did me, Georgine, and Kristen did an audition for the Varus? Is it Varus, the app?
I think you said that to me and somebody else, and we were like, of course you did. It might have been David.
Yeah,
of course you did.
Well, it was the funny thing was we were the only. Oh, Dan did it. Dan Rahana, he did it also. He was there as well, and like the difference, the nature was like they like everyone went in a group of four and four. I can't count today, man. Like I can't speak on count. So, and you go in and all right, one person is like the instructor, and the other three are like taking part, and then the next person goes. So I went second. I was like, thank God I went second, so I could saw how this guy did it. And this guy teaches at 76th Street and a ton of other ones, and he's like, I think he's pretty popular. I can't remember what his name was, but he was really good. And I was like, fuck, this guy was good. Like he sold it. And it's so different, man. Like if you don't do group fitness and then you're having to like audition for it, like it's like going to an exam you haven't studied for, at least for me. Anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and so it was okay, but like the group fitness people were like, they're like, okay, they were just so good. They were like, all right, you're gonna give me 3 more. Okay, you got 15 seconds.
You know what would be really good in that too? Because I was about to say you should shadow a group fitness instructor, but shadowing is mad creepy, right? You're gonna be in the cut, like, you know, looking into the group fitness class, like shadowing. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like maybe even like shadow, quote unquote, to do like assist, right? Like be a group fitness
right, exactly.
instructor. I don't even know how that works. So like you're helping out the group fitness instructor while they're teaching or while they're coaching, right? So you're looking around, like maybe you take one half of the room and just check the form on the people there. And then also observe like the energy, observe like how the group fitness instructor is carrying out their session. So that way you can take that home too. And then do like the auditions or whatever. But that might also be, and that could be a way that we kind of like bridge that gap too, right? Because personal trainers who don't do group fitness kind of look at it as like a different thing altogether. And they might not say they can't, right? Because a lot of trainers are prideful,
right?
Which is also going to get into my sidebar from like an hour ago. But they're very prideful. So they might not say, oh, I can't do it. But like it's important to kind of like be able to be more versatile. And it's one more tool in your toolbox. And then like you can also branch out. It's a networking opportunity as well, not only with the group fitness instructor, but the class as well. So it's very important. And it helps build 100%. That community in a gym too. You should know everybody. Yeah, if you go to group fitness classes, you should know all the trainers by name. Like you should, not because you have to, but because you want to. It's a community.
See, it's so interesting you say that because I've been training virtually a group fitness instructor from Toronto actually. And something she said as well is the trainers and the instructors there don't gel mesh that much. And I said, it's the same in New York. It does just, it doesn't happen. Like, I think, I can't remember when, I know I train a group fitness instructor, and she does a few classes. She's also my photographer. She's so cool. And like, I think she knows some instructors, but like, I told her, I said, it just doesn't like, unfortunately, there's just not much of a mix. And like, I don't know why it is. I think part of the nature is the instructors go from club to club and we stay in the one like home, if you will. And you, as an instructor, you're always like never home. You're always on the move, if you will. Yeah. But it's interesting because I feel like I know some instructors, I know them like decently. Right. And then some I just don't even know. Let's be honest. We've been in the back room at 76th Street having our dinner, and there's a random dude, a random girl. And then I'm like, who is this person? And it was, and it's not being mean, but it's a group fitness instructor who either we weren't aware of who they were, or we didn't know. They might have been trained. They might have been teaching the class for 3 years, but so you know better than, right? Yeah. Some you talk to, some you don't.
I think that's on everybody though, but that speaks volumes about the community approach. It shouldn't only be between members and trainers, but also like trainers and group fitness instructors. All right, guys. So in order to kind of change gears back into recovery, what we're going to do is we're going to go over an outline, kind of give an outline for you as to what we do for like pain or like any recovery strategies that we may have, especially now during this pandemic where it might not be available. Like a lot of things might not be available, things to have around the house, or when things start opening up, things that you should go out there and buy and always have with you just in case anything happens. So knock on wood, first and foremost, you don't get injured. But if in the case that you do, you have like a strategy of when you should get things checked out and what to do.
Yeah. So in prior experience, it's been good to have more than one ice pack, especially if you. I think having an ice pack period is good. Is
Right.
and mine lives in the freezer. I had to take out the other 3 they had in there. I have a rotation of 4 because I've had my issues and whatever in the past.
Yep.
But and then other recovery tools that we mentioned, like a foam roller. But I want to talk a bit more about like when anti-inflammatories that are on the more natural side, like turmeric and ginger. I think having those handy to put in. Some people put them in teas. I don't know too many people that have them in soups, but smoothies. I'll put them in smoothies. Yeah. I think those are some of the go-tos just to have. I think, but being smart about the windows of your injuries, right, or your symptoms. Right. So if something's swollen, like Angel, you spoke about when you're running, like if you've acted on it the day after it's swollen, it's looking better. Okay, the action steps you've taken are they're efficient, right? They're very timely, right? So you know that, and you're seeing the time frame of a day or 2 of it decreasing, right? The swelling. Whereas that's something that when I have a client that has an injury for more than a week, I'm like, what do you plan on doing about it? Like, are you planning on it'll go away? Because I've had that mindset when I was younger, and that shit does not go away. That's the one thing your body does not let something do is go away. It doesn't usually, it either stays away, you either get used to it or it kind of hangs in there.
I was also going to say, you should have something in your like cubby or whatever you got in like your gym. So as a trainer, you should always have like a Tiger Balm or a Bengay, some sort of like treatment, lotion or something like that, that's going to be able to help relieve immediate pain, just in case, like for yourself and then also for your clients, right? Like at the end of the day, if they get injured on the floor, maybe they were working with you, maybe they weren't, maybe it's just another member, right? You can always say, I have this, and then they might be able to use it. I don't know about that, so I'll have to fact check that one.
Well, I just think that
if you can't give them something, like you can't administer it, but if you have it and they use it, I think if you have it and they use it, you're good to go.
You can suggest, right? You cannot prescribe because we're not doctors, and we can't say, but there's nothing wrong in saying, I have used this and I have found it to work for me.
Yeah.
If you felt this is something you wanted to explore, you can take a look and let me know and give me feedback. But you cannot be like,
that's like you taking the Tiger Balm and just putting it by them and saying, I'm just leaving this here.
I'm leaving this here. You might want to use it. I might turn a blind eye. But that's just like, but that's something
for myself. But again, like I would have that with me.
And then if the Tiger Balm after a week's use isn't doing anything, now what would you do? You have to think like, okay, immediate, like we said, an immediate response of like the soothing of the pain. Yeah. But that's not to say, all right, my show has been fucking bothering me 3 weeks. I just keep putting more and more Tiger Balm on, right? Like we have to be like, I'm not saying that's what you said, but those of you guys listening, like, no, that's not what we're implying, and we have to be very timely with like responding to the symptoms.
Yeah, and I also think like it's reasonable or what's well within reason to say like, if you don't know, if this has never happened to you before, you should probably, I guess, before you do anything, like you should definitely like speak to somebody,
a professional, right?
Yeah, speak to a professional to know like what's going on, right? Because if I have like, I don't know, my right toe all of a sudden turns blue and I can't feel it, with my previous knowledge, I might know that it might be something, but I still really don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know if I'm just like nervous, if I'm, depressed, like I don't know what's going on, so I have to go see somebody in order to like check it out, right? Because I might be thinking in one train of thought or one like line of reasoning, and then somebody else is like, no, actually this is a very serious condition. You need to be administered for X, Y, and Z. So first, foremost, I guess, seek professional help, and then secondly, like have that toolkit that you have with you either at your home or in your locker or something like that. And we spoke about like ice gels, or, any sort of like bag where you could put a lot of ice, ace bandages or some sort of compression, and then some sort of pain relieving ointment. I think that helps me out. I mean, I'm just speaking from my personal experiences. You guys might have some other stuff that you go to as well. And speaking to Jacques' point, the turmeric and the ginger,
ground ginger, they go well in smoothies. They don't really taste like that much. So you can just throw them in, right? Again, assuming you've got like a ton of fruit and vegetables or whatever sources of food. Or
I think it'll also turn yellow in the teeth or something like that. I don't know. Maybe.
So yeah, I typically
is it?
stick with ginger because
Okay.
ginger, I like the taste of ginger, and it's pretty like I put a good dose of it, like about a tablespoon every time, and
Okay.
it gives a little tangy taste. I don't mind. I actually kind of like it.
Right.
But again, I have like the blueberries, bananas, some kind of natural, some kind of some fat like a peanut butter. I have some protein powder, right? I mean, like and water or whatever. Like you mix it in, like you don't really taste as much. But like that's not to. But this is also to say that there's no one solution for every single person. There's no one blueprint method. Everyone's all different, and know that some work better for others, right? So like just because Angel's on the ointment, so the tiger balm might not work as well for me. It's a lot harder to say, and that's why when we talk to our clients or anyone who questions us about this is an avenue we can explore. But there's no, and it's like anything in the health and wellness world is I can't guarantee you something, but we can explore this avenue, and if it doesn't work, we take it off, and that's it. Like we take it off. You put it against the like things that don't necessarily work that well. So that, like kind of wrapping up, like we said, like the ginger, the turmeric. I mean, even knowing what foods are have higher anti-inflammatory properties, that it can be something as simple as that. Like sometimes when we assess like nutrition programs or habits of a client, and we look what the nutritional habits look like, tweaking a few things like that. Like I didn't read the full article, but my friend sent me. There's a soccer player he's an English soccer player, football player. My English people hammer me for that one. Playing in Rome, and since he's always had like tendonitis in his patellar tendon, and since he's gone vegan, he doesn't feel the pain anymore. Like, hey, is there more to it than him just changing his food? Maybe, but this guy strongly believes that having changed his diet, right, the reduced amount of inflammation in his diet has helped with his tendonitis. So like that's I will get back to you guys and like probably maybe try and post it on the page if you guys are interested. But
I didn't see you slipping in the vegan in that one, so that was very good.
Well, no, I didn't intend to, but coming from someone who's had knee pains like since I was a teenager, and it's specifically that tendonitis, if you can, and I have a client as well who once I talked to him about like some more plant-based proteins, he's really bought onto it, and this is someone who's had so many surgeries, and he was telling me today, he's like, I really have a lot less pain, not no pain. Correct. Just, right. So what he said, he goes, I'm not going to say never have pain because it's a lot less significant than when I was strictly on animal protein. So that's just one client, but that's just observation.
Yeah, totally. And to that point, I will say like, also thinking about the foods that have an inflammatory response. And then also like, we spoke to AG about what he's been doing in order to get as lean as he gets for his shows and his competitions.
Right.
And one of the things that he spoke about was getting that allergy test in order to figure out what his body's allergic to. So it might not even be in a generic list. You might have to go a little bit deeper. So that's just
case specific.
Yeah, and that's just getting to know your body a little bit better. So that way you can understand what's happening to it at any given point in time, right? Absolutely. Whether it's with exercise and like, exercising in cold temperatures or in hot temperatures and wondering why your body responds better to one than the other. Same thing with injuries, knowing why your body is not healing up or why you've been having like that ache for a very long time. And then
it's so specific, right? Like we talked about specificity in the beginning, like what everyone's response is. And like I think he said he can't have peanut butter or something, right? Or almond butter or something.
I think
it's one of the nut butters.
I think he can't have peanut butter, but then he can have almond butter because he's slightly allergic to peanut butter.
But if that's one of the first things that you see when you're trying to make adjustments to like spreads for bread or healthy crackers and that's usually one of the first go-tos when we make adjustments or suggestions is peanut butter. And like, if that's the first thing you're incorporating in your diet and you're like allergic to it, you're intolerant to it, like absolutely that can throw you off. Like that's again specific to a person. Like like I mentioned maybe in the previous episodes that like I know oats are really good for the body. They're good. I know it's efficient. But I feel like I may have an intolerance for it. It's just a matter of time before I go and find out if I have or not, because I know it kind of bunks me up a little bit. But maybe I have an intolerance to it. Like not everyone it depends.
Yeah, because AG was also talking about that cream of rice.
Exactly.
I bet you haven't gotten the cream of rice yet, though.
I have not. But
I gotta tell him.
He
gonna get on you.
He gonna get on me, but you can tell him that I've been
sponsored by cream of rice. No, I'm just kidding.
I've been doing this probiotic, so
you have? Okay.
Acidophilus, and I honestly I did this in conjunction with like the spinning sessions, I feel like some of the best shape I've been in a long time. So
That's awesome.
that's good.
That's awesome.
It's good. Yeah, it's good.
Cool. All right, so let's wrap this thing up.
All right. So guys listening, thank you for tuning in. Again, a little bit of a different note. It was just us two on this episode, and again, we'll get David back on very soon. Just happens to be like a change of scheduling events last minute, unfortunately.
Yep.
David was sorely missed.
Yes.
He is healthy though.
He is healthy.
No COVID related symptoms.
Nothing like that. Be sure to like and subscribe to the video, and Spotify, I guess, subscribe
and leave a review. If you guys leave a review for us, you really help us grow. And where the more like reviews and ratings we get, the more platforms we can reach to make this a better podcast for you guys listening to us. So the more you help us now, the more we help you in the long run. So we're definitely working on getting the greatest field of people coming to our podcast. So and again, we mentioned on an Instagram post the other day that we have invested in better equipment to improve the sound quality and reaching out to you guys. So you guys appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, also like leave a comment or text us or DM us if you feel like we need to stand either closer or further away from the mics, because it's kind of weird.
Actually appreciate it.
Yeah. And I guess also while you're at it, just tell us whose voice do you like the most and whose voice do you hate the most.
What?
I don't know. Maybe that I'm trying to be influential. That's how you be.
No, that's fair. That was funny. That was just last minute.
No,
all right, guys. Thanks for tuning. What's up? You know that one?
I'm not an influencer.
Up and coming. Sanchez up and coming influencer.
No, I do my thing.
All right, should we wrap it up?
Yeah, wrap it up. All right, thanks guys.
All right, thanks for tuning in, guys. Talk to you soon. All right, bye.